What's up guys, it's Manga Time once again. I'm here today to bring you my review of Bleach 588, The Headless Star 7. Now, I'm going to just quickly mention, I have a new theory to do with the Headless Star. Now, because I figured the Headless Star was going to end with the Ichigo-Uryu interaction, because Uryu leaving the group and then realising that would be the Headless Star. That would be the star without the head, because Uryu's the brains. And I think it might have something to do with that. Just like Deicide had a couple of meanings as well. It wasn't just the defeat of Aizen, who was supposed to be the god. It was also about Ichigo finally, pushing down his, causing his hollow to submit, which, was like a god and a king, etc. But anyway, the Headless Star. I also, now that Yhwach's made it to the Royal Realm, I actually think maybe, what if it's talking about the death of the Soul King? Literally cutting the head off the entire star, the Soul Society. There's a couple of reasons, well, there's one reason I don't want that to happen, and that's because I think the Soul King has so much potential. I really don't want Yhwach just to get to him and then one-shot him. That would be just fucking terrible. But I don't think it's going to happen. The Headless Star, it could have something to do with Soul King anyway. In fact, I think it's pretty much guaranteed to, because we're only on 7. So, if it gets to Deicide levels, like 23, then there's plenty of stuff to see. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on the title. What do you guys think? I think it's probably going to have something to do with the Soul King now, as well as Uryu. But yeah, now this chapter gets down to the action really, way faster than I was expecting it to. Basically, Yhwach comes smashing up into the palace like he does at the end of the last chapter. Now, this is weird. You get reaction shots from every member of the Royal Guard. They're all being really caught off guard, which I think is very strange. You can't tell me that they sent Ichigo down and they had absolutely no idea about the fact that his clothes would create an enormous barrier. They would create an enormous hole in the barrier. How can they not realise that? And then, Hikifuna's just sitting there eating. And it's like, okay, you really didn't think that something might happen? And it's just like, okay, that's weird. But, it doesn't exactly take them long to mobilise, let's put it that way. Anyway, Yhwach arrives, and, the three of them step onto the landing platform, and we get something that's very interesting. There's a lot of stuff that's pretty interesting in this chapter. This is possibly the most interesting part. Yhwach basically, he looks upon the palace and he's like, so this is the Soul King palace. And then Haschwalth, he's like, I understand your feelings, your majesty. Now, interesting. Now, because then Yhwach says, what do you mean? Looking at a rotten gravestone doesn't make me feel the slightest bit of emotion, to which Haschwalth apologises. Whoa, okay, now this is actually quite major, considering it's just 2 lines between Haschwalth and Yhwach, but it's the start of something. Now, what does it mean? Basically, I think it obviously alludes to some kind of history between Yhwach and the Soul King, and I'm hoping we'll get more of that when he actually meets the Soul King. Now, obviously, I really think the Soul King is definitely a usurper. I think he probably took the throne from Yhwach in some form. Now, Yhwach calls it a gravestone. That would imply that either he's saying... Now, he could be saying that he's going to kill the king, therefore the palace will be his gravestone. Or, the popular theory back in the day was that Yhwach was dead already, which is why the Schattenbayreich had a time limit on him being away. If you remember, just in the first invasion after he killed Yamamoto, the Shadows dragged him back in. Now, yeah, so if he is dead, it could be that he was the original king, and so he sees this palace, which used to be his, as his gravestone. It's like a monument to him. And that would be interesting, I think, if the Soul King had basically, if the Soul King had killed him and then taken over the place. Regardless, I think if Kubo kind of goes down this route, down the kind of bitter history between these two, I think we're going to get some really interesting story stuff coming up soon. Let's be honest, this is what everyone's been waiting for. If you've been reading Bleach for as long as I have, the nitty-gritty of the Royal Palace, of the Soul King and everything, this is what we've been waiting for. And it looks like Yhwach is going to be the catalyst to get those answers. But anyway, yeah, so Haschwalth was obviously expecting Yhwach to feel sad, I suppose, when he looked upon the palace. Again, which would feed into the theory that Yhwach was booted out or some fashion like that. So yeah, very exciting. Not a whole lot more we can say though, because it is literally just those cryptic 2 lines. But let me know in the comments below what you think Yhwach meant by his comment. Anyway, Yhwach then says, let's go, and Haschwalth summons the Soldat in the coolest fashion we've seen yet. Basically, he just, if you remember in the first invasion, the Sternritters had to touch the floor and then swipe. Haschwalth just stands there like that, and the shadow comes out of his hand. Like, I mean, how does that even happen? But anyway, yeah, he summons the Soldat. They all come leaping out, and this is really great. This is what I wanted to see. I didn't think Yhwach was going to take on the palace himself. I was hoping that an army would come rushing out like they do. I was also hoping that the Royal Guard would have an army, but that doesn't seem to be the case. However, the Soldat rushed towards the area, and then they get smashed aside, and it's Kirinji Tenjirou, the hot springs demon, and he's actually got his sealed Zanpakuto toe, and it looks like the oar of a boat. It looks super unique, and I think his hair is like shining. I'm not actually sure, but he says, this is the famous Soul King Palace. We don't allow uninvited visitors, and just the artwork is fantastic. Like the expressions on Kirinji's face are great. It was always quite full of expression anyway. He then introduced himself as the first officer of the Zero Division. That's new. Tenjiro Kirinji, Divine General of the East. That's awesome. But it also, that's another title for these guys that we didn't know they had. So, I mean, I presume that another 3 will be the other compass point, and then maybe Ichibei will be like center of the compass or something like that. But, so, just by law of manga, law of storytelling, Kirinji's probably the weakest of the 5, if he's, the first officer, which I think a lot of people predicted anyway, because Ichigo went there first, and so, I think that's probably the order of strength. It will be Kirinji, Hikifune, Oetsu, Shutara, and then Ichibei. What I don't want to see, though, is the 5 of them coming out staggered, because that just doesn't make sense. Like, why would they send out Kirinji? He gets wasted, then they send out the next one. You think they'd send out all 5? So, yeah, I think we'll probably see a couple more arrive. But anyway, Yhwach's great. He's just like, do you think someone like you can stop me? And it's so great. He's just talking smack to this Royal Guard. And the artwork is just so good. Like, Kubo's having a good time drawing this. You can tell, because Kirinji's like whipping out some awesome poses. And, he's like, I wouldn't come out if I didn't think so. And he's like, challenging him. And then we see, what Kirinji's Zanpakuto can do. And it's interesting because at the moment it's still sealed. And it summons a lot of water, which is very cool. The Soldat are like, oh my god, it's hot, it burns, and their like eyes popping. But it's quite funny. That reminds me of the scene in The Simpsons where Wolfcastle's like, the goggles do nothing. But anyway, the water kind of comes crashing around Haschwalth, and Kirinji's like, hey, guest, is my water not hot enough? Basically, that's kind of weird as well. Like, does Kirinji really not know who Yhwach is, that he just calls him guest? I mean, he could just be saying that anyway. I should think he knows who Yhwach is. But, yeah. Anyway, he basically whips the water around him. And he's like, this hot water is my special creation. It can squeeze blood and Reiatsu out of people. So, boom, Kirinji is using his invention. That has something to do with his Zanpakuto. So I think we can safely say the other 5 probably will as well. Except it gets a bit weird when you get to Ichibei, and his invention was just naming shit. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. I think we can probably say that the giant spoon Hikifune was carrying was her Zanpakuto. And I'm pretty sure Mera, the fire chick, was Oetsu's Zanpakuto. Like his personal one, because obviously he had loads. Shutara, I don't know, it's hard to say. We haven't really seen enough of her, and the same with Ichibei. But it's really cool to see another water Zanpakuto, especially with a living Shinigami this time. And he tries to, like... It's kind of weird, because he completely obliterates the Soldat. But when he, like... When he gets Yhwach and Haschwalth with it, they just stand there. So it's kind of like Kirinji's dancing around and, like, saying all this kooky shit, and, like, they're just completely unfazed. But, basically, he then releases his Zanpakuto. And its release command is Shine, and his name is Kimpika, which means shining gold. And what he does is he kind of, because his sealed Zanpakuto is like a long oar with like some Japanese writing on the top, which I believe means Kirinji. He basically takes the top off like a lid, and then there's a little blade underneath it. Again, looks very unique, fits with the whole unique theme that the Royal Guard have going on. They've all got very creative designs, and it looks like that's hopefully going to transfer to their Zanpakuto as well. Like, I'm kind of getting the same feeling I got when the Vizards first released their Zanpakuto, and I was like, these are some seriously unique and awesome Zanpakuto. Like, Rose had his whip, Love had his massive cudgel, Lisa had the whole pike thing. Yeah, that was just awesome, and I hope we get the same kind of variation in design with the Royal Guard, because they have such great designs in the first place. Anyway, Kirinji takes the lid off with his toes, which I thought was kind of weird, and then his blade starts lighting up. Now, this is where things get very interesting. In his sealed form, the blade is water, but it would appear that Kimpika is actually a light Zanpakuto. It would fit with its name, Shining Gold. Now, what I think is maybe, he's a Royal Guard, he's going to be Beast, so I'm thinking maybe his Zanpakuto is dual type, water and light, so he can combo it so that the light reflects off the water to create a lot of heat. I don't know. Or now this is something else that's just come to mind. Literally just come to mind. The water wasn't actually his Zanpakuto. Maybe he can just use his creation offensively. In which case, that would mean the Royal Guards essentially have an extra way of fighting. Which, actually, I think that's probably more likely what happened. So his Zanpakuto is actually a light Zanpakuto, which is awesome. Because we've never seen one of those in the manga. I think some dude had one in the Bound Arc filler. But yeah, that's really cool, actually. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he actually uses that. In combination with his water technique that he can use. But however, we don't get to see any more of that fight as Yhwach basically scowls. And then we cut back to the battle down below. Now, this is kind of weird, this part, because nothing really happens. Basically, it's Giselle versus Ikkaku and Yumichika. Now, this is strange, because this is 2 Shinigami against 1 Sturmiter. We've already had this. Basby and Rukia. Basby versus Rukia and Renji. That's 4 of the 6 Shinigami versus 2 Sturmiter of the 8. So, Hisagi and Byakuya are the only 2 left. Now, seriously, if Byakuya takes on Colonel Sanders and or Pepe and kills them, I'm going to be hugely disappointed. But I think, I want to make this prediction now. I think the Sturmiter that are fighting here will survive to fight again later. I think they'll all be called up into the Royal Realm when Yhwach succeeds in taking over it, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Because that would mean that Kubo would have to drag out the fights for quite a while. Or he just has Yhwach completely dominate in the Royal Realm. Anyway, also one last point I want to quickly say is that it's interesting that Kirinji Zanpakuto doesn't look anything like a Zanpakuto. And then we can say the same probably for Hikifune. And that's kind of reminiscent of how Yamamoto's Zanpakuto, in its unsealed form, was inside the cane. We've not seen anyone else do anything like that, so it's kind of interesting that Kirinji can basically do the same thing by, it's inside the ore. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's a symbol of your power. But I'm surprised Shinsui can't do that sort of thing. Anyway, back to the fight down below. Giselle's just doing the same thing she did before. She's like, don't hurt a girl, don't hurt a girl. It's pretty lame to kill an unarmed girl. She's basically trying to bait them into attacking her like she did with the other Shinigami. I kind of hope she can do a bit more than this, to be honest, because she is my favourite of the Fenritters. But, Yumichika's she's clearly provoking us. And then he says, judging by the way she's challenging us to slash her, there must be a trap somewhere. And then he basically guesses her entire game, which is bullshit, if you ask me. He basically goes, for example, being touched by her blood is bad. Why on earth would that come to mind straight away? But anyway, Giselle, she's been caught out, and she's like, I don't think there's anything like that, but, you better not slash me. So I kind of would have hoped that she maybe could do a bit more, and at the end of the chapter we kind of maybe see where she can go with her powers, but, I don't know how long this battle's actually going to last. I don't actually think that Ikkaku and Yumichika could necessarily defeat her, but anyway, Yumichika says, let's expose another one of your tricks. You talk about being an unarmed girl, but you're a man, aren't you? Now, this causes Giselle to kind of be like, what? Now, Yumichika then says, you might be trying to hide it, but you smell like semen. Okay, Yumichika, I didn't see that coming. Now, the forums are kind of going a bit crazy with this. Everyone's like, Giselle's a guy? Giselle's a guy? What? I don't think so. I don't think she is a guy. I think it's just Yumichika trying to provoke her, like she was trying to provoke them. So it's like a battle of the provocation between these two, at least. Ikkaku will be the one doing the actual fighting. And I don't... It's hard to read Giselle's expression. Maybe she is a guy, but I don't think she is. I really don't think she is, because of the way she kind of rages out after he says it. She's like, you know, she just goes a bit crazy. So I don't necessarily think she is. I think he's just getting under her skin. But anyway, this is pretty interesting, but it's something everybody called. She then calls out Bambietta. Bambietta arrives, looking all zombie. She's got like, she doesn't look all gross, but she's got like darker skin and blank eyes. And then, you know, Giselle like grabs onto the back of her, and she's like, "Sorry for making you wait, Bambi-chan. Let's kill all of them." So yeah, she's raging out. I don't think she's a dude. But that's the end of the chapter, is zombie Bambietta and Giselle teaming up. Now, there's a couple of things I want to say about this. Bambietta's clearly still able to use her ability, because she blows up Ikkaku and Yumichika. So it's now 2-on-2, and I think Ikkaku and Yumichika are in serious trouble now, because Bambietta is very, very powerful. I say 2-on-2, Giselle probably not really going to do much. But anyway, you have to wonder, like, how much sentience does Bambietta still have? Does she have any at all? Because Giselle explicitly stated earlier that for her to zombify a Quincy, the Quincy has to be dead. So presumably she killed Bambietta and then zombified her? I don't know why you would do that, though. Why you wouldn't just heal her. But regardless, you know, Bambietta can still use her ability, but it would appear that she is Giselle's personal corpse. Like, she you know, answers to Giselle. So whether Bambietta can, like, speak or anything, I don't know. Or whether she's literally just, like, a lifeless shell. I don't know. It's kind of neat to see her back. A bit weird that she's wearing her cape again. Like, did someone buckle it up again for her? I don't know, because she wasn't wearing it when she was defeated. But it is cool to see her back. I mean, I would have preferred someone like Kangdu or BG9, but I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that they've probably been off-screen, you know, and that's it. We're never going to see them again. But that's the end of the chapter, guys, and I'm going to drop a 9 on this, because I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I did not expect to get a Royal Guard Shikai release this early. Honestly, I expected just all 5 of them to arrive, and then there'll be a bit of a stare-off. Kirinji arriving first is weird. Well, it's not weird, it's cool, but I hope, like, they don't stagger it. And the Giselle bit, not as interesting as the Royal Guard bit, but frankly the Royal Realm is going to be the peak of interest, apart from when, for me at least, when Colonel Sanders and Pepe step up to the fray. That's going to be interesting for me. However, regardless, 9 out of 10, because I really enjoyed it. The artwork was on another level this week. I love the poses with, like, you know, Kirinji was doing and everything. It looks like it's going to be a great fight. And I hope a lot of it doesn't get off screen, because that'd just be crap. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the review. Panel of the week is, you know, it's really hard. A couple of the Kirinji panels were awesome. The one where he's, you know, challenging Yhwach was very cool. The one where he unsheathed his arm Pakto was very cool. So yeah, that's kind of it this week, guys. And I shall catch you next time for Bleach 589. And we'll see how long this star runs for. You know, it could run for ages. Or it could be over by 10 chapters, in which case I'll have no idea what the hell it was about. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this chapter. Did you like seeing Kirinji fight? What do you think of the whole Giselle situation? Do you think she's really a man? I think it was actually kind of random that that was brought up, and I do think it was just Yumichika trying to provoke her. And do you think those two will be able to defeat Bambietta and Giselle? So let me know in the comments below what you thought. Don't forget to subscribe to my videos, guys. That's always so helpful. And give the video a thumbs up. That'd be great. But until next week, guys, see ya.